Trust or gift. Those are the two main options that you have when you want to pass your home to your children while avoiding probate. And there are downsizers picking the wrong one without realizing the consequences. I'm Weldon Hobbs, and I help downsizers align their life and wealth goals with their real estate decisions. So that way you can walk through this next chapter with confidence and clarity. So, the trust versus gift decision. This is one of the most common crossroads, and here's why it matters so much. For most people, the home, it's not just an asset. So surveys show, and this one came from Wharton, that 70% of seniors say their house is the single most valuable thing that they own. So when you hand it to the next generation, you're not moving a piece of property. You're moving the biggest financial decision of your life. And the objection that I hear the most is, Weldon, my situation is simple. I just need to put my house in my kid's name. I want you to hear this. There is no simple version of this decision. And the wrong choice, that can cost your family more than it's worth. So let's walk through the 8 things that you have to think about before you decide. And if you're looking for more life, wealth, and real estate content that caters to you, the downsizer, hit that like and subscribe button and let's get into it. This is educational, not legal or tax advice. I'm not an attorney, I'm not a CPA. Use this to get smart before you sit down with the professionals who are. Point number 1, avoiding probate. That's not just one goal, it's actually a clue to a larger problem. So most people, when they're weighing this, they want the same thing. Leave the house to the kids. That's the goal. Keep it simple. Keep it where it avoids probate altogether. And that is smart. Probate is the court process, if you're not aware, that distributes your property after you pass away. And it's public, it's slow, it's costly, and it's costly in ways that your kids are having to wait for a court to sort out everything, sort out your affairs. But here's what most people miss. Both a trust and a gift avoid probate, but it does not narrow down the decision at all. Because pass the house to my kids, that can actually mean 4 different things. Do you want to make sure that you can live there the rest of your life? Do you want to avoid a fight between your kids? Do you want to save them from a tax bill or just stay out of probate, period? Those are 4 different goals, 4 different considerations, and they don't all lead to the same decision. But figuring out which one is yours is what the rest of this video is for. It's what it's all about. Okay, point number 2. This is loss of control, and it's the line that people cross by accident. If your goal is to keep living in that house on your terms, control is everything. And this is where the gifting gets dangerous. So when you gift your home to your kids, you're actually giving up ownership. You give away 100% in this case, and of course you have zero say over whether or not you get to stay. But you give away a partial share, and now your kid is a co-owner. So if you ever want to sell, refinance, borrow against it, you may have to go through them to get their permission. So a lot of parents, they don't realize that they've handed over that power until they need it back. A revocable living trust in this case, it flips that. You put the house in the trust, but you stay in control your entire lifetime. The kids can't tell you what to do. There's no situation where a child demands their share early. They're not entitled to anything until you pass. So if your goal is control, that's a trust conversation, not a gift conversation. And think about this. If you are co-owners, what liabilities might you be taking on? What if your kids stop paying bills? All of a sudden, there is an asset in their name. Does that put your home in jeopardy? It's something to think about. It's an asset that they own. Could somebody come after it? Again, think about it. Point number 3, and this is all about privacy. Privacy is a goal that most people don't know that they have. And here's one that nobody asks until it's too late. The question here, if your house passes through a will, it generally goes through probate, and probate is that public process. The records, the values, who got what, anyone can look it up. If your goal is to keep your family's business private, a properly funded trust generally handles the distribution outside of the court system, outside of public view. And if that's your goal, maybe, maybe not. You should decide it on purpose instead of finding out the hard way that your neighbors can read your estate. Point number 4, the asset protection trap. So, this is where I have to be careful and precise because it's the biggest source of confusion that I see. People think, I'll put my house in a trust and it's protected from creditors. Not necessarily. So, a revocable living trust, the kind that most people set up so that way they can stay in control and change it whenever they need to, generally that does not protect you or the house from creditors, from your own creditors. Because you kept the right to revoke it, that asset can still be on the table. Real asset protection is a feature of certain irrevocable trusts, and that's a completely different animal. You usually have to give up meaningful control and let someone else serve as trustee. And whether that actually protects anything depends on how it's structured, your circumstances, and your state's laws. So if creditor protection is your goal, know that a basic revocable trust, it's not the tool for it. That's an estate attorney conversation that you have to have if you're concerned about it. Point number 5. This is if you decided to go ahead and gift now. So there is an estate trap that you need to be aware of. And let's just say that you skip the trust, you gift the house, and there is some real potential upside. That completed gift, it could pull the home out of your taxable estate, but it doesn't come without risk. And your taxable estate number, that is pretty darn high. Talk to your CPA, make sure that that still stands for your situation if you find yourself thinking about this. But the trap that's sitting right next to it, if you gift the house, but you keep living in it, especially rent free with the understanding that you get to stay, that value, it could be pulled right back into your taxable estate under federal retained interest rules. So the move that people think is moving the house out of their name, out of their estate, it actually can come back and still bite them. It doesn't actually work the way they thought it does. You may still have to file a gift tax return. And here's where I say, do not gift your house without first talking to your CPA about the reporting requirements. If your goal is estate tax planning, this is the exact kind of thing that has to be figured out on purpose, not guessed at. Okay, point number 6. This is the step up in basis and a tax bomb that you may be placing on your kids. So this might be the most expensive mistake in the entire video. And it's the one that people almost never see coming. When you gift your kids that house while you are alive, they generally take your original cost basis, what's called carryover basis. But when they inherit it at your death instead, they generally get a step up in basis to the value at that exact time. So that difference, that can be enormous. When you gift a house that you bought decades ago, the kids, they go to sell it. They could owe capital gains on all that appreciation. But if you let them inherit it, there is a huge, significant portion of that gain that will just disappear. And I'm not going to give you the exact numbers here because your basis, your gain, your situation, but that's a real conversation with the CPA and a state attorney. There's calculators online that you can find to calculate that. But just generally speaking, if you bought it for $190,000 and it's $1 million without costs and everything else, like that gap, your kids inherited at that $190,000. But if you pass away and it's valued at $1 million today, they inherit it at that stepped up basis as though they paid $1 million for it. They go to sell it. They don't owe taxes on it, right? That's the idea. So if your goal is to leave your kids the most money and the least tax, gifting the house now, that can quietly work against you. Research, step up in basis before you ever transfer the title. Okay, remember, the question isn't trust or gift here. The question is, what are you actually trying to accomplish by avoiding probate? Every one of these points is asking you the same thing because the tool only works if it matches the goal. So stay with me because the last two, this is where families get hurt the most. All right, point 7, Medicaid and the look back. Nobody's going to warn you about this. So the rule that most people have never heard of, and it matters more than almost anything else on this list. When you apply for long-term care, Medicaid in this case, think nursing home care, the state looks back 5 years of your financial history. That's called the look back period. In almost every state, that window, again, 5 years, 60 months, right up to the day that you apply. So if you gift your house to your kids inside that 5-year window and then you need care, that transfer can trigger what's called a penalty period, a stretch of time where Medicaid, they're not going to cover your care and you are paying out of pocket until it runs out. The well meaning move to get the house out of your name early becomes the exact thing that cost you when you need help the most. There are exceptions and the details they vary by state. So this is a conversation for an elder law attorney, but if protecting your options for your income and health, if those change, if that is one of your goals, you cannot make this decision in a vacuum. And you can imagine as our population gets older and older, people are looking for alternatives and this might cross your mind. And so be aware, don't do it without being informed. Okay, point number 8. This is the co-ownership bite, if you will. So remember what I asked back in point 2. If your kid is a co-owner, what happens when life gets messy? This is where that comes back to bite you. The moment that the house is theirs, it is exposed to their world, and therefore you are exposed to their world. Their divorce, a lawsuit, a creditor who doesn't care that it used to be your home. You gifted the house, but you also handed it everything and everyone attached to your child. And you don't control any of that. And here's the second half of it. So, say you gift it to your most responsible kid, figuring that they're going to split it fairly with their siblings someday. You don't know that. It's not guaranteed. That child could pass before you. And depending on how it's titled and their own estate plan, the house could land somewhere you never intended. You could disinherit your other kids without ever knowing it. Now, parents, they don't gift a house expecting any of that. They're trying to keep it simple, but simple can quietly hand away your own safety net. And that sets your kids up to fight over a house that used to be yours, just yours, and it forces them to decide on it. So, if your goal is to keep your family whole and keep a roof over your head that you control, a well drafted trust can spell out exactly what happens. Sell it, split it, keep it, nothing left to fight about. So here's your next step. Before you pick trust or gift, get honest about one question. And underneath all 8 of these points, what are you actually trying to accomplish? What risks are you taking on? Those are goals that can change the entire answer. This is a starting point as you watch this video. I'm not your attorney. You're not my client in this capacity, if you will. But once you know what you're trying to get after, the right professionals can help you pick the tools that get you there. If this is just one of the many decisions that you need to make to set this next chapter up for success, though, check out our resources below. I help others organize and sequence their decisions so that way they remain in control, keep their independence, and they can walk through life confidently knowing that they've made purposeful plans. I'm Weldon Hobbs, and when we're making big decisions, we start with your life goal. We optimize it for wealth, and then we focus on the real estate. Remember, good decisions, they start with good information, and I'll see you in the next one.